Well, hello, good evening. You are on Sports Today, of course. We are just a brief while away from two cracking quarterfinals. Of course, the Netherlands are taking on Czech Republic at 9:30 p.m. India Standard Times, and Belgium versus Portugal. That's the big game tonight at the Euro 2020, and that's the one we're going to focus on because there's plenty of talk around Belgium and Portugal, of course, the defending champions. Both teams have been in remarkable form, and then you have it's also a bit of a face-off, isn't it, between Lukaku and Ronaldo? But are they going to really look at individual battles? And Lukaku was very clear in what he said on his interaction on Twitter the other night. He and the rest of the stars there want to win this for Belgium and they want to progress into the quarterfinals. Can they do it? It won't be easy. I have with me, of course, Chirag and Chinmoy to discuss this game, to dissect this game. I'll go straight in because this is people are talking about this one. Chirag, if I can start with you, I'll go straight into this one, this big one. Belgium, Portugal, two teams in great form, two of the biggest strikers, two of the most informed players going head to head tonight. Lukaku, Ronaldo, but it'll be a lot more than that, Chirag, because you look back at what Belgium missed out in that 2018 FIFA World Cup. They, of course, lost to eventual champions France. And this is their moment to make it big and win a big competition, a big football tournament.
Yeah, that's accurate. I think it wouldn't be wrong in suggesting that. 2018, they went up to the semifinals for the World Cup, and then post that, in terms of the Euros, in this particular year, they've been playing decently. I think they didn't start off as well as one would have expected. It took a bit of time for them to adjust to football. I mean, De Bruyne himself didn't start initially in the Euros. He was injured in the back of the Champions League final. You touched upon the fact that this is a big one for them, and this particular tournament is big for them. I was reading an article recently about how this squad is probably going to have, this is their last chance to really make a big impact. Some of the players, the average age of the squad is a bit on the older side than the rest of the other tournaments, other teams that are playing. So, in terms of that, we would really want to expect them to go all guns blazing. They didn't start off that way. I think they're getting so now. I think towards the end of the Finland game, I believe that was the last game that they played. You could really see the emergence of the Belgian squad. And when you're talking about the likes of Lukaku and Ronaldo in the same game, I mean, it's a mouth-watering game, but it's often overshadowed with all the other talent on the pitch. It's crazy, the talent. I would say the best midfields that you will see through the tournament, apart from maybe France, is in the game tonight. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think Portugal will go into it knowing that this is a good chance for them to prove to the rest of the world that we're here to stay, we're champions, and we're going to be around for a while. I think to the last 20 minutes of the game against France, both teams were quite open to understanding that this is enough. I mean, at the end of the day, it was a group of death. So yeah, I think going into this game, both of them have hit a stride, and we'll be seeing a game which is going to start off very quickly, I believe, and then it's all going to be based on the midfield. How the guys in the midfield really create for the guys up front.
Absolutely. It will be a lot of midfield play tonight, Chinmoy, to take on from what Chirag said. Also, Belgium will have, Portugal would want to prove a lot as the defending champions, but so would the Belgium team. It's a star-studded team, first of all. Again, the heartbreak. Lukaku's own brother has gone on to record and say that, they have not been able to overcome the pain of losing that semi-final to France. It's that kind of a build-up for Belgium as well. They wonder what's going wrong. If you look back at that World Cup team, they had everything. They had all their bases covered. And then over the last 3 years, and especially under Martinez, these guys have been in great goal scoring form also. So this is going to be like what Chirag rightly pointed out, really mouth-watering contest. And for neutral football fans, what better?
Yes, You rightly said that this team, Belgium team, ever since 2016, they have retained 15 members, right? 2016 Euro onwards. And from
Hmm.
then on, they have lost only 4 matches under Roberto Martinez. So they are very consistent, no doubt. Whereas the team of 2016, which Portugal had, they've retained only 9 players. I mean, from that 11, 9 are left. So far
Hmm.
as consistency is concerned, I would say the scale is tilting towards Belgium. But then, if you look at the Euro record, then Portugal stands way ahead in terms of the records you find. Now,
Hmm.
Chirag was saying one thing. I come to the formation, right? I was going to the formation and what the experts were saying. Belgium is playing 3-4-2-1. 3-4-2-1. Obviously, there are 3 defenders and there are 2 wing backs, right? 2 medios, 2 defensive medios, 2 aggressive medios, and up front is Romelu Lukaku. Whereas they are playing 4-1-4-1. 4-1, 4 defenders, 1 central defender. There are 2 wing backs, stuff like that, and one up front is Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, it itself shows Coach Santos, Fernando Santos of Portugal, has on the upfront, he realizes that his defense is light, right? Except for Ruben Diaz, you find Pepe is aging, 38 years of age, and there is Gureda. Okay, now these guys are good. They're all 6 feet in average. They're good with the long balls, aerial battle. They will win it. But then Belgium's potent force is through along. De Bruyne in the midfield, terrific with the left and right. He's a creative guy. He has the last season with Man City 36 superb assists. So there, I think the coach thought Santos that he needs to pack his defense, and I think for today, both team has got tremendous attacking players. Right up front, you see Hazard. I'm talking about Eden Hazard. I was reading about him. He himself said that he has 3 broken ankles surgeries. Right, so he said that I won't be the same player what I did against in Chelsea. Okay, at the age of 30, because things to be heavily stacked against me so far as my physical fitness is concerned. Having said that, this guy is still creative, and he has got Lukaku up front, and this De Bruyne with Jeremy Doku forms a triangle. Right, they
Hmm.
operates like that.
Hmm.
In case of Portugal, you find Ronaldo has got Diego Jota and one left feet player, Bernardo Silva. Amazing ball control. And you see, Bruno Fernandes doesn't find a place. He's in the bench. So, in short, I think how much the Portugal defense can hold on to them. It will be a high scoring game. Take it from me. Both
No,
the team has got
that's an
potent attack.
that's
It
an
will be a high
interesting point.
scoring
In
game.
fact, that's an interesting
Yeah.
point because it also leads me to my next question to Chirag. Because both teams are so attacking. Chirag,
Right.
again, there've been barely any games in those 58 to 60 games under Martinez for Belgium where they haven't scored. I believe 2 or 3 games where they've gone goalless. So, what was that approach going to be like? Two attacking teams clash against each other. You said it's going to be a quick start, but will it also be a test of the defense there? How do they prop up? What sort of play do you expect in those first 15 to 20 minutes against for Belgium and for Portugal there?
So I think look, in terms of the lineups, Portugal has always played four at the back. I mean, let's just talk about this particular tournament. They've always started with the same formation, and I think there's a reason behind it. Um, the biggest player in the Portuguese side coming into this game, in my opinion, would be Danilo, who towards the end of the French game, playing at centre midfield, was injured. So it's good news that he's back on the pitch, and I would hope that he would start because he sits in front of that back four, and he would provide that level of coverage. And Renato Sanchez as well. Whenever he has played, and even in the last game, he did a good job. But remember, they played against Kante and Pogba. And they drew 2-2. So they'll be going in with quite a bit of confidence. If they have to face the likes of Witsel and De Bruyne, even if it's Hazard. So I think from a defensive perspective, yes, it is going to be a very crucial game for the likes of a Danilo. The likes of João Martino started last game instead of Bruno Fernandes. And there's a reason behind that. I think Portugal was far more fluid in their build up to play against France. Even though, and I'm a United fan, and I would love to watch Fernandes play, but In this side, it kind of made sense to see João Martinho play instead, because he gives them a little bit of leverage to he plays a bit more back in terms of Bruno Fernandes, who is a bit more forward. And that helps Danilo more than anything else. I think also from the perspective of Belgium, Belgium's always tried to play three at the back. They'll play three at the back today as well. So they've got a lot of experience in their back line. And the likes of Vertonghen, Alderweireld, those guys. So I think by playing three at the back, that allows them to push forward more. Lukaku is obviously going to be center focused, but you'll have the likes of Hazard running off and De Bruyne running off, and we will see a lot of interchange play, a lot of one-touch passes, a lot of one-two communication. When you talked about Ronaldo and Lukaku, and of course they're going to be the flag bearers in terms of scoring goals, what will be very interesting is Lukaku's an out-and-out striker. Ronaldo's built his career up to become a striker. So they're very different players. Even though people want to compare them, there isn't really a comparison, because they're differently abled in terms of how they approach their game of football. So I'd be very interested to see how Lukaku approaches collecting the ball. And does he come down a bit further down towards the midfield to collect and then run off it? Does he allow the likes of Eden Hazard to run off him? What's his game going to be like? And on the other side as well, in terms of Ronaldo, whether or not he's going to bomb down the wings a bit more to just collect the ball. I think it's going to be very much interchanged in terms of slick passing in the middle of the pitch.
Right. And also there are also obvious questions on Bruno Fernandes. Aditya Bhardwaj is in fact asking Chinmoy whether will Bruno play today. I suspect that leaves no room to assess his loyalty, where his loyalties lie outside of the Euro as well. But coming to Belgium, there, it's such an interesting team because we keep talking of the top footballing. We've discussed Italy. We've talked about the best teams in the competition so far. With Belgium, what strikes you is that they've reached the knockout stages of the last 5 major tournaments that they've played, and in fact, you look back at the 2018 World Cup semi-final defeat. That's only one of the 10 defeats in the last. One of the only defeat in the last 10 games at a major tournament. What is it that plagues the Belgians? What do you think? Is it fair to say now that we use the word chokers so often in sport? Are they the chokers of modern day football, Chinmoy, the Belgians?
Yes, the Red Devils, as you said, I agree to that. Some of the teams, they reach a certain level, but then the jinx, as you say, they can't break it. They can't go on top of it. South African cricket had that. Now, coming to 2 points for the today's match. Belgium, you said, I come to a question, first you answer it. Why they can't make it? Like Portugal, for me, I think for every team, you need a charismatic character. You need someone who can pull through. You can see Ronaldo, for all that matters, the 109 goals he has scored. You look at Messi, maybe Messi's international records, he has not won laurels and all these things, or Maradona. So every country needs one character, one real person who will carry things on his back. Now here comes the shortcoming of Portugal. This edition, they have got 7 goals and 5 being scored by Ronaldo. So where is Ronaldo's support? Whereas 7 goals, same scored by Belgium, you can see they have split it. Lukaku 3, De Bruyne has scored. So there, I think he will find lonely. Ronaldo, he will find lonely. And so far as the supply line is concerned, you see, Lukaku and Hazard, they have the support of De Bruyne. One of the most, sublime touch. His through balls in the Man City has been so highly acclaimed, even by huge, very stalwart like journalists. So De Bruyne is a creative guy. No matter that Fernando Silva is there, but he's in comparison to De Bruyne. I think Ronaldo will be lacking a little bit of support. But then he's a very charismatic guy. He can pull it through. Now I'll talk about the records. In the group league, Belgium had a ball possession of 57%. That makes a lot of sense, how much ball you can have. Now, this team, Portugal, they had ball possession of 53%, but then of that, only 70% came against Hungary, weaker side. Now that makes a lot of sense. The midfield, it's the midfielders who mostly hangs on to the ball, at times the defenders, the central defenders and all. So it's a matter of statistics and how you can maneuver it, right? All the top coaches, they'll look at it. They'll look at it. So I think if you compare both the teams, it is a Ronaldo dominant Portugal. He has to carry the team like Maradona used to do, like Messi does. Whereas for Belgium, they have got a lot of support. There's a collective bunch there. But then the chokers thing, they might really, I don't know really, because he's a character, Ronaldo. You never know really. If you get support from Bernardo Silva and Chirag was saying, Danilo Pereira, all these guys are there. Diego Jota, a lot of good names are there. Suddenly he can spring up a surprise. The betting market, all experts, they're rooting for Belgium, the overwhelming favorite, FIFA #1. They're FIFA #5, but some of the days the ranking goes for a toss. It's how you play on a particular day. So, my heart says.
I think
Yeah.
Chirag?
Go on, Chinmay. No, go on, Chinmay. Go on.
No, what I say is that my heart says it will be Portugal, because then I can see more Ronaldo, though I love Messi. But my mind says it is Belgium. That's the way it poised now.
No, I think there are a couple of things there which I don't quite agree upon in terms of Ronaldo's goal scoring and him taking on the load. I think a lot of the goals in the Euros have been penalties, which Ronaldo has been taking. So I don't think it's fair to assess. But in terms of Portugal, you also have to remember when they won the Euros, Ronaldo was off the pitch in 20 minutes or 25 minutes. So the rest of the game was actually played by the rest of the squad. Even though it's not the same squad, I do think Portugal has a they've got a strong starting 11. I would say they have a very strong bench as well. I don't think they have a strong enough bench compared to the Belgians. I think the Belgians have players that they can put on who can make an impact very quickly. And you can see that in their formation. And another thing that the Portuguese might suffer a little bit is how quickly the Belgians can switch play in terms of change formations. I was very lucky to be at St. Petersburg for the semi-final in 2018, watching France and the Belgians. And the big thing that came out of that game, it was a low-scoring game, if you remember clearly. The big thing that came out of the game was the Belgians moved the ball very quickly and could change formations very quickly, although the world champions, the French team, were more rigid. But they had better players in terms of their defensive midfield positions, and they had Mbappe on the break, which led them to win. And I believe it was a header that actually won that game for the French side. Anyway, but that's, I think, the biggest strength that the Belgians have. They can switch formations very quickly. That's the strength they have on not only in the bench but also the 11 that they have playing there. Portugal playing a 4-1-4-1 system is more of the 4 in the midfield is probably going to end up playing like a diamond. You have to remember Bernardo Silva, I would say, is often even though he's highly rated, he's often underrated in City because of De Bruyne. I think a lot of the reason why De Bruyne can get what he gets to do, even though he's phenomenal, is for the likes of Bernardo Silva being able to be around and provide him those opportunities as well. So I think it's actually a clearer play. I mean, I'm on the side of the Belgians actually seeing it through and winning it as well. I do think they'll be going into this thinking and feeling that this is the last opportunity we're going to have to really, really make an impact or a dent in terms of bringing silverware back home.
Interesting. Also, before I get back to Chirag, this is also, we've spoken about formations, we've spoken strategy, and of course, past records and numbers. Now, just purely as a footballer, talk us through it. Portugal, you said Belgium, you're backing Belgium to win this, but will it also play on the back of Portugal's mind? They've had a very difficult group. They've been the group of death. They've come through because they were one of the best third-place teams. Belgium, on the other hand, they've had it relatively easier. I don't know whether that's the right word to use, but they won 3 games, and it was a much easier group that they came out of. So will it also matter psychologically to Portugal before the big battle? They've already fought a fair few of their own. One win, one draw, one loss, and one draw. It was a tricky qualification in the round of 16.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, going into the game, they would feel like they're probably a bit more prepared in terms of having the big stage for this particular tournament. But to be very honest with you, all of those guys on that pitch have played big games across their careers. So they would have faced each other, and more importantly is the Belgians. Yes, they were probably in a group which was not as hard as the Portuguese in terms of what they had to go to get to qualify. But at the same time, the Belgians didn't start off very quickly. They didn't start off playing really well, right? So they had to build their confidence through the stages, through the games, through the 3 games. I mean, I think it was just Belgium, the Netherlands, and Italy who have won all their games, right, in the Euros so far. So even though, and that tells you a lot about a team and a squad. I remember through the 60s and 70s, in terms of even when you're talking about the top national teams in terms of Brazil, Argentina, you look through even England around 66 or elsewhere, teams which are strong and didn't play their best still managed to get results, right? So they're not playing their best, but they were getting results. And the Belgians did that, albeit under different circumstances, albeit under opposition which were probably not the same as the Portuguese have faced. But it says a lot about strength of character. And I think the Belgians will feel it going into this game. Although the Portuguese would have played, matches which are obviously far more challenging in that sense. But again, going back to my earlier point, I do think towards the end of the game against France, the tempo just dropped off. If you watched the game, you knew that they were going to just sit back to try and ensure that they get the qualification through. So, keeping those things in mind, I think the Portuguese would have a slight advantage going into it, thinking that they've probably played a few more games and had a few more miles to run. But once the ball kicks off, I don't really think that's going to make a big difference. A lot of those guys have been big stage players. So I don't think that would make much of a difference.
Well, that we'll figure out in a few hours from now. Of course, there's a 12:30 a.m. Start, and there's always a lot of discussion around these players. But Chinmoy, since Chirag mentioned one of the 3 teams to have been undefeated so far in the European Championship, Netherlands is one of them. 3, they've won the 3 games. They're now looking to win their 4th game, the fourth game, of course, and make it to the round of 16. But they don't have a great record against the Czech Republic. If you look back at the European Championship.
Can I interrupt here?
Yeah.
Can I interrupt here for a second? So
Go on.
If you allow me, I go back to one. Belgium you're talking about, if they can make amends in this, if they win it again, pull it through against Portugal, they will face Italy. So you understand?
Yes.
They will face Italy. So
remember, that's what we discussed in our preview for the round of 16. That whatever, if everything works out to plan, right, like what we discussed, it's going to be a very interesting lineup as well, leading up for the quarterfinals. So that's going to be really
Belgium task
fascinating.
is not over. Even if they can, they can pull it through against Portugal. They have a really higher mountain to climb.
What you're also saying will resonate with one of the comments we've had. Actually, we've had a few comments as well, and one of them was Aditya Bharadwaj, who makes a very interesting point. Something that we've talked about as well in the past is winning Euros more difficult than the World Cup because you get weaker teams from around the world. What he's trying to say is that the Euro, something like the Euro, is probably more compact because it's a shorter tournament in terms of teams. And of course, you've had 24 teams this time, but you look at the Copa America and you look at the Euro. Do those tournaments sometimes give you better and more quality football than the World Cup? From what you're saying, Chinmoy, maybe that's a discussion for another time, but that will also, reflect strongly on what Belgium will have to do to ensure that they actually picking up silverware and taking it home with them. So that'll be interesting. But also the Netherlands game, that's going to be another interesting face-off as well. You look at Netherlands, undefeated so far, taking on the Czech Republic, and you go back 5 years, 6 years. You go back 5 or 6 years, and there's a bit of history there between these 2 teams also, Chinmoy.
See, the Netherlands and Czech, I think that Netherlands is overwhelming favorite. Okay, that they have a tremendous team, Netherlands. They didn't have a good record in the Euro last few years. They didn't do well even in the World Cup. They're disappointed. But I think this team is unique in a sense. It was Johan Cruyff, it was Ranush Michel who had this total football concept which carried on to tiki taka and all this. So now the format they're going to play 3-4-1 and 2 itself is very aggressive in approach. 3-4-1-2-3 in defense, 4 in the midfield, and one in the I mean attacking medio, and 2 in up front, Memphis Depay and Wijnaldum. Now the fact is, this Netherlands team, if you look at it, Frank de Boer, once Ronald Koeman suddenly left for Barcelona, okay, he handed over to Frank de Boer. He has really built this team so beautifully. And if you look at it, their defense is very strong, right? A very strong defense and equally good offense. So that stands them apart. They have got 8 goals, and you can see that two of the goals has been scored by two of the goals been Denzel Dumfries. So he came from the right back, and then he fired 2 goals, right? And then Depay and Wijnaldum, they got 3 goals each. So it's a unique thing. A defensive player comes out and scores 2 goals. And if you look at the team lineup, Frankie de Jong, okay, the Barcelona guy, is most versatile. They call him the metronome, right? So now the thing is that what we find in the Netherlands team, though they're ranked 16th, that they will be playing against ranked 40th Czech Republic, things are heavily in their favor. And if Czech Republic banking solely on Patrick Schick, who has only got 3 goals for them, okay, they have got 3 goals and all 3 come from them. Okay, Chirag I was discussing with him. He said that it was they are underrated. Okay, they are in a strong group, only lost once against England 1-0. They did well against Scotland and all these things. Having said all this, I think they lack experience. They lack flair in upfront. And though Czech Republic, if you look at, not a bad record in the Euro, right? If you compare it to Netherlands, but I don't think that history at all makes any difference on a given day. For example, we are talking about, just going back, Belgium being a brilliant side. They have a very good winning streak. They're doing so well, but on a given day, you can see any team can topple the apple cart. We have seen it in 2004. Greece won the Euro, right? They are a very ordinary side. So we are having a discussion, entire thing, formation, all. It can go for a toss on a single day.
I mean, it's you just have to look at the game yesterday. I mean, right. Italy had to go through to extra time, and to be very fair, Austria played extremely well in the second half, right? And I was mentioning this earlier as well when we were speaking, that the Czechs were in a reasonably difficult group, and I don't think their football is based on attacking prowess. It's based on how can they build defensively and frustrate teams, and in knockout stages. That's as good as being aggressive. You know, it's a very important thing to be able to go into 90 minutes. I'm on the side of the Netherlands winning. I think the Netherlands are dark horses in the Euros. I've said this before the tournament. I've said this prior to several other individuals and colleagues myself, that I do feel that the Netherlands are dark horses.
They have an easier
I do
draw.
think they'll have a little bit more. Yeah,
they have got the favor of the draw also. The next match, they have a lighter team, Sweden maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think they'll get through to the semis. They will be able to overcome it, but I don't think it's going to be as easy. The Czech have been able to play counter, and they're quite good on the counter. And that's how they line up. I mean, they've got 4-2 guys, two sitting midfielders who are very, very good in what they do, and they play out from the back, and they're very, very clear in terms of what their football is all about, right? So the Netherlands have to go at them. The bottom line is the Netherlands have to play well. It's not going to be a pushover. It's not going to be a game where it's going to be them just dominating it from the get-go.
And also,
So
the
yeah,
fact
I
that
think
the Czech Republic, like you mentioned, they're not going to be pushovers. You're looking. We were talking. In fact, Chitwa and I were discussing how impressive they have been. Look at Patrick
mhm,
Schick. Maybe a lot of the European market would be opening up for him. It could be his special night as
Sure.
well. You never know. You wake up to something like the Czech Republic overcoming the Netherlands. Again, we understand what you're saying, what you mentioned, Moy. But those there are interesting stories within stories to look at. Also, a lot of people,
of
because
course.
Patrick Schick has really opened up the eyes for the world with his performances in this competition, Chirag.
Yeah, I agree, and that's the point. That's why tournaments like these are very important, which comes back to your Copa America, Euros, and the Nationals in terms of the World Cup. I think a lot of internal stories keep getting built. Sheik is a
Mm.
very good story in terms of this particular tournament. I mean, you
Yeah.
just have to look at the goal. I don't think there's going to be a single goal that can defeat that goal in this tournament. It's a goal. I mean, the Czechs have the goal of the tournament. I would assume. But having said that, it's still going to be a game where they have to counter really well. I think they've got to be able to break play really well, which I think they've done based on even the game against Scotland, if I remember clearly. They broke up play quite well whenever people were attacking, whenever the opposition was attacking. And the Netherlands have that. The Netherlands have a bit of a resurgence in terms of that. People were not really even counting them as contenders. I think they would be going into this a bit more less fearful. They'll be going at it, which I'm quite interested to see. There's a lot of internal play within even the Netherlands squad. If you really think about it, in terms of Depay moving to a bigger team, as much as we're talking here about Sheik and everything else happening on the Czech side, but there's a lot of play happening on the Netherlands side as well. And Wijnaldum was supposed to move to Barcelona, and all of a sudden he's moved to PSG. I mean, these things will play on the minds of the players, and going into this game, it will be around as opposed to anything else. But even still, having said that, in terms of squad and the bench strength that the Dutch have, I'd be surprised if this goes into extra time.
Right. Fascinating. We'll also, of course, come back and look at Chinmoy's prediction for the quarterfinal lineup after the 30th, and also in tomorrow we'll figure out what happened to Netherlands and Belgium, of course. So overwhelming favorites again, these two teams. Belgium because of what we've discussed, the prowess and the overall setup. Rahul Nair, before we close, is saying Netherlands have not had a good run up to this tournament. That's why he feels it's going to be an even contest. But then what happened before the tournament is really history. And you've got to look at the confidence and the form of both teams in this tournament, like both Chirag and Chinmoy have so nicely pointed out. But that's that. We've dived into depth, of course, around Belgium, Portugal, and before that, Netherlands versus the Czech Republic. Who is going to go through? Which of these teams will go through? We'll, of course, certainly have more answers tomorrow when we join you back. Thank you,
Any
as usual.
prediction?
Yes.
Any prediction?
Predictions, score predictions. Yes. Chinmoy, since you
Yeah.
brought it up, we'll start with you.
No, today I'll start with you, please.
With me.
Yeah, the show host.
Okay, I am going Belgium 2-0 over Portugal, and I'm backing Netherlands 1-0 over the Czech Republic.
Chirag?
Right. I think the Netherlands are going to probably get it about probably win 3-1. And in terms of the Belgian game, I think it's going to be a cracker. I think it's going to be 3-2 to the Belgians. So the Portuguese are going to come back, and it's going to be 3-2.
Tonight, this Portugal is going to bring about a surprise, right? Okay, Portugal is going to win. This is my prediction. I don't know what will be the margin. Okay, it's maybe it can go to the extra time. Okay, and as for Netherlands, I think it will be 3-0. That's the two things. Portugal, I think, will spring a surprise today.
So you're letting as of this point, Chinmoy, you're letting your emotions get the better over your head, because you said what? Head says Belgium, heart says Portugal. You're listening to your heart as of now. We'll find out soon enough. Of course, it's going to be a late night for all of us to enjoy some fascinating football. We'll come back with more tomorrow on Sports Today. Thank you again, gentlemen, Chirag, Paul, Chinmoy, Roy, for your views on the Euro 2020. Thank you so much for joining us on Sports Today, all of you, with your comments, questions, and please do subscribe to the channel. There'll be a lot more across as we really dive into the business end of Euro 2020. Thank you. Have a very good evening and see you tomorrow.